America love Japan. Banzai! We hope you live 10,000 years. I'm still living large off the high of the Japanese-American love affair online. Happy Easter. He is risen. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. God bless America. It's Monday morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You've just tuned in to the greatest morning show in the history of the American Republic. And today, I mean that more today than I've ever meant it before, because this Easter weekend, this glorious, miraculous, only in America Easter weekend, it gave us a story so cinematic, so jaw-dropping, so absolutely dripping with American excellence that I genuinely considered just playing the Star-Spangled Banner for 30 minutes and calling it a show. But then I thought, no, the people deserve better. You deserve better. For you. So for you, we do that for you. What's up, Jimmy Joe Patty? It's great to be an American. There's always something interesting happening here. Not always good, but it's good to be found if you can find it. Bless every single one of you for waking up this morning and choosing to be informed instead of lied to. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You're up early. You're on an alternative media news platform. You're not listening to the lamestream media. You're listening to the alternative media. And congratulations to you. I mean, you must get like a 20-point IQ bump for finding your way here and joining this community of all communities. Here's what happened this weekend in one sentence. While the American left was on social media posting fake news that Trump was being rushed to a hospital, Trump was actually in the Oval Office ordering commandos into Iran to pull an American colonel out of a mountain crevice. I will say that again because I want it to land properly. They thought he was on a ventilator. He was running the most daring search and rescue operation in American military history. And on Easter morning, the holiest day of the Christian calendar, after his warriors brought that colonel home, the president of the United States posted on Truth Social, "Open the F dash straight, you crazy bastards. Praise be to Allah." President Donald J. Trump. That is real. Open the effing straight, you crazy bastards. Praise be to Allah. I could just hear Donald Trump try to do it in some black, African sort of crossover Muslim accent. Praise be to Allah. No, he really posted that on Easter morning. Praise be to Allah. That's my president. Folks, I have been in the media my entire adult life. I have never, ever, ever seen anything like whatever this is. So we're going to break down every detail of that rescue. The CIA fake convoy, or maybe they wanted you to think that it was a fake convoy. It was a fake convoy, double fake convoy. The bombed Iranian search parties, well done there. The planes they blew up rather than leave behind. The Walter Reed hoax, all of it. They used the left as a smokescreen in this country. It was beautiful. Operational excellence, finally. This was Jimmy Carter. It would have been aborted halfway through the desert, and a lot of Americans would have gotten killed. We all remember that. Jimmy, Bubby Baby, not to speak ill of the dead. But that's not the only good news, because while the defeatists were busy telling you that America is crumbling and the middle class is dying and the American dream is dead, Steffi was really interested to hear this one today, but I was embargoing this story for you. But the American Enterprise Institute quietly dropped a report that proves every single person who thinks the middle class is dying, the American dream is dead, is wrong. It turns out that the middle class is not dying, it is graduating. The upper middle class has tripled in one lifetime. Tripled. And for the first time in history of this republic, more American families now sit above the core middle class than below it. Congratulations, America. Tell that to Bernie Sanders. Actually, don't. He will just buy another beach house. We're going to break that down in the A1. And this is the kind of story that will make you want to call your mom and tell her America is going to be okay. And speaking of people who know a thing or two about economic freedom. I've got two incredible guests this morning for you. John Miltimore, senior editor at the American Institute for Economic Research, will be here to confirm all of my biases. Maybe not all of them. He's joining me at 8 a.m. Central to talk about why the formula for building wealth in America is sitting right in front of us, and the left absolutely cannot stand it. And then at 8:30, I've got Tom Pappert, award-winning reporter at the Tennessee Star, to talk about the Defeatism industrial complex, the Soros money behind the No Kings, AstroTurf, the Baghdad Bob media, and why being wrong about America for 50 consecutive years apparently pays really well. Why? American decline sells, which is quite an interesting inverse scenario. Now, before we get into all of that, and trust me, we're going to talk about all of that, I need to talk to my Patriots, the 1776 Club. You boys and girls out there, you know who you are. If you're a monthly subscriber to the show, you are amazing. You are the reason I can keep alive and free and independent. You have no idea what kind of a situation you get into when you join the professional media. There's all these double standards and moral gray areas and ethical gray areas that you have to deal with. And most of it involves, how do you get paid to produce media or a show like this, a podcast like this? Who are your sponsors? And the beautiful thing about the For Liberty Network, and you're watching the For Liberty Network right now if you've never heard or seen of us before, we've got 5 live shows on this network. But in order to finance a show like this and to keep it on the air and to grow and to staff up and to build like a credible media organization, you have to make money and you have to bring in more money than you cost. And it's quite expensive to run a business like this, a media journalism. Pieces of paper? Who prints pieces of paper and sends them to people in the morning? Newspapers? What is that? So how do you monetize it? Well, you can go and do some dirty deals. You can, find some gas station boner pills. But I mean, I try and avoid such things. But what I have found is that if you create a subscriber model, you create something of real value, right? And you create real value for people and build a healthy, positive community, then no matter really how big the size of your audience is, it could be fairly small. And I'm not the biggest, podcaster streamer out there. But you can avoid ethical, double dealing in this business when you have a strong base of people who are financially supporting you as monthly subscribers for your media venture. And it's working. It's phenomenal, guys. Super grateful. We try and give back to you, though. We have lots of prizes and giveaways for all of our subscribers. So if you aren't a monthly sub, then today's a great day to do it. Head to wakeupAmericashow.com/support. Support the For Liberty Network, like people like Byron Norris and Drew Van Runkle, and so many of you who are watching are already doing. Thank you. Bonus content is live and ready. We hit $100 raised on the Wake Up America show, either in donations or at purchases at forlibertyshop.com. where we have the finest patriotic coffee on the planet, Founding Flavors. I'm drinking this morning. Head to forlibertyshop.com, join our Discord, get in the game, and let's get this show started. Wake up, America. It's a great day to be free. Here we go. Such competence in this administration. One would think that you would see mistakes happen, and certainly it hasn't been a completely flawless job, but it's so nice to see competency in foreign policy, and surprising to me, shocking to hear points of view like this from, I guess, not Senator, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Take a listen to this.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, right, that's not a very good arrangement.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of them's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to be re-examined. And I've been a big supporter of NATO.
Yeah, you have.
One of the reasons.
Listen, that's Marco Rubio saying that. Thanks for the sub there, Drew Van Runkle. I'm sure Coyote appreciates it too. Those gift subs help other people and they help grow the show. You're amazing. All right, guys, let me ask you something before we get into the news. How many times have you heard this? The middle class is dying. The middle class is being hollowed out. The American dream is over for working families. How many campaign ads, how many primetime speeches, how many grievance-soaked rally moments have been built on that exact sentence? I've heard it from J.D. Vance at firefighter union rallies. I heard it from Joe Biden in 2023 when he stood in front of the cameras and declared that trickle-down economics hollowed out the middle class. And here's what I want you guys to understand this morning. They were all wrong, factually, empirically, demonstrably wrong. And we now have the receipts. The American Enterprise Institute, which is one of the most respected research institutions in this country, published a landmark study this January by economists Stephen Rose and Scott Winship. And what they found should be on the front page of every newspaper in America, but it is not because it does not fit the narrative. So let me give it to you straight. In 1979, Jimmy Carter was still in the White House and the country was in the middle of a gas crisis and double-digit inflation and general American misery. 10% of American families were upper middle class. 10% in 2024, 31%. The upper middle class in this country has tripled in one lifetime. Don't do that. Not listening. I can see you out there doing that right now. Don't do that. I can't hear you. I don't want to hear this. This does not fit my narrative of gloom and doom and disaster. Yes, that's right. 31%. So the upper middle class in this country has tripled in one lifetime. And here's the number that stopped me cold when I was reading it this weekend. For the first time in American history, for the first time ever, more families now sit above the core middle class threshold than below it. 35% above, 34% below. That has never happened before in the history of this republic. And the poor, the people that we are constantly told we are being left behind and crushed and abandoned, the share of Americans classified as poor or near poor was 30% in 1979. Today, it is 19%. Ouch! Right in the feelings. Adjusted median family income rose 52% over that same period. And get this, even families at the very bottom of the income ladder, the 10th percentile, are nearly 30% better off than they were in 1979. So when Bernie Sanders tells you the system is rigged and the middle class is dying and America is failing its working families, what he's actually doing is describing a country that does not exist. The researchers at AEI put it perfectly. Decrying a shrinking or hollowed out middle class is just a gloomy way of saying the upper middle class has boomed and fewer families are in hardship. Guys, the middle class is shrinking, yes, because people are graduating out of it. They're not falling down, they're climbing up. The doomsellers looked at a nation of climbers and told you they were falling. And they did it because despair is worth more to them than the truth. How do we know this? Well, it's quite financially profitable to prognosticate the West's decline. There's a market for that. Here's the formula that they don't want you to know. Here's where things get interesting, okay? Oh my goodness. I just blew my script there, guys. Way to go. We'll do that live. F it, we'll do it live. Here's where it gets interesting. The data does not tell us that more Americans are wealthy. It tells us exactly how they got there. And the formula is simple. It's the only reason you don't hear about this on cable news is that it would put half of Washington's grievance industry out of business overnight. Here are the three variables that predict whether a family ends up in the upper middle class, okay? Because not one of them is be born rich, okay? First one is education. 55% of people with a bachelor's degree are upper middle class or rich. 68% with a graduate degree. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. College is becoming it's so expensive. Yes. The student loan system is a disaster, and we do need to have that conversation. But don't let anyone tell you that investing in your own skills and knowledge does not pay off in America. It does. The data says it does. Second, marriage. Marriage. More than 80% of people in the upper middle class and rich categories are in married or cohabiting households. 80%, two incomes, split costs, pooled savings, shared risks. So the family unit is not a social construct. It's the most effective wealth building mechanism ever devised by human civilization, and it's free. Third, compounding effort over time. So this one doesn't have the catchy name, but it is the most important of all. Let me tell you about a man by the name of Randy Schilling. Randy grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, went to a public high school, got a petroleum engineering degree from Texas A&M. Yeah, smart degree. Some of us are all regretting our degrees when we hear about that. Petroleum engineering, I didn't know you could major in that. And good for you, Kitten. Congratulations, Cecilia, to your upcoming nuptials and your child. So happy to see people I love having kids and getting married. You're going to make more money. So this guy, Randy, he spent his first decade in an apartment worrying about paying for vacations one day. Then in his early 30s, he took a job that paid 15% more plus bonuses. Promotions came in, pay raises. He bought a house on a golf course in Humble, Texas, saved more than $3 million for retirement. His household brings in $220,000 a year. And you know what he drives? A 2015 Ford F-150. Yeah. I got him beat, though, because I got a 2012. You know what he says about himself? He says, I view myself as an average Joe. I don't have to have a fancy car, but when I want something, I go get it. That's nice. Then there's Gabriel Martinez, 34 years old. His father earned less than $40,000 a year working for the state of Texas. Gabriel's first job out of college in 2015 paid $50,000. Today, at 34, he earns $180,000 at a major technology company, plus bonuses and stock compensation. He and his wife paid off more than $100,000 in student loans. They own a home. They tithe 10% of their income to their church. And he said something in the Wall Street Journal I think is the most American sentence I've read in a long time. He said, I'm very grateful to live in a nation where I don't have to stay where my dad was. Folks, that is it. That is the whole show right there. That sentence is what the left cannot stand. Because if Gabriel Martinez is grateful for America, if he believes that the system worked for him, then he doesn't need Bernie Sanders. He doesn't need Elizabeth Warren. He doesn't need the entire apparatus of grievance and dependency that the Democratic Party has built its last 30 years around. The formula isn't hidden and it's not gate kept. It's not available only to the privileged few. Here it is: education, marriage, compounding effort. The left hates this conversation because the answer to poverty in America is not more government. It's more Gabriel Martinez. Now, why? I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Why do you feel broke even when you're not? And who did that to you? Okay. Austin, the data sounds great, but I don't feel wealthy. I feel squeezed. Stephanie was saying this yesterday when I brought up this topic. I hope she's listening. She says, I feel like every time I get a raise, something else comes up and eats it. Okay, you are not wrong to feel that way because there is a paradox sitting at the heart of this story, and it's probably the most important part of this entire segment. Even people who are objectively doing well, people with real money, real savings, real security, are pessimistic about the broader economy. Randy Schilling, $3 million saved, $220,000 a year, house on a golf course, is worried his 23-year-old son won't be able to keep the trajectory going. Laura Shields in New Jersey, $240,000 a year. She lies awake at night worrying about paying for college in 2 years. Chris Wogan grew up in a Philly row house with 7 siblings. Parents could not afford a baseball glove. Now pulls in $175,000 a year in pensions alone. He's taken multiple Viking cruises in Europe, just bought a retirement home with 2 pools, and still considers himself, quote, middle class. So how is it possible, guys, that people are richer than they have ever been and more anxious than they've ever been at the same time. And here's the answer, guys, and I want you to burn this into your memory because this is the key to understanding almost everything wrong with American politics right now. The things that have gotten more expensive, the things that feel genuinely out of reach are not the things that the free market broke. They're the things the government touched. Housing, healthcare, higher education. The Wall Street Journal editorial board pointed this out directly. These are the three most heavily subsidized and regulated industries in the entire American economy outside of defense. The government poured trillions of dollars into subsidizing college tuition. What happened? Tuition exploded. The government then built a Byzantine regulatory system around healthcare, and premiums exploded. Thanks, Obama. The government created zoning laws and then all of these permitting nightmares and environmental review processes that make it nearly impossible to build housing quickly or cheaply. And what happens? Home prices exploded. And this is the part in this that should make your blood boil. The same politicians who created those conditions stand in front of the cameras and tell you that capitalism has failed you, that the free market is the problem, that you need more government to fix what government broke. It's the greatest con in American political history. And here's the bottom line that I want you guys to carry with you on this topic. We'll revisit it with John Miltimore again at 8 a.m. Central. America is not a nation in decline. America is a nation being told by people with a financial interest in your despair that it is in decline. The data doesn't lie. The facts don't care about your feelings. The upper middle class has tripled in one lifetime. The poor are a third fewer than they were in 1979. Median family income is up 52% in real terms. Gabriel Martinez went from a $50,000 starting salary to $180,000 at 34. Chris Wogan went from a Philly row house with 7 kids and no baseball glove to the Viking cruises in Europe. The American dream is not dead. It's not even sick. It's just been buried under 50 years of political propaganda by people who need you to believe it's dead so that you will keep voting for them. Wake up, America. The numbers tell the truth, even when your politicians won't. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm shocked that anybody would even sit through a speech like that, to be quite honest, because it's so unpopular. I know it is, guys, but I know I would have the #1 show on X podcast, whatever, Apple, iTunes, if I would just retard it up for you, but not you, because I know you guys would leave. I saw a really funny video the other day from this billionaire guy. He was talking about why he was retard maxing, and I was kind of like, what? But then he was actually making some really good points. He was just talking about in the modern situation where everything is so competitive and everything moves so fast that if you sit and if you think about things too much, if you take too much time, then the opportunities that exist are so fleeting that they all just pass you by. I think it was Mark Andreessen, some billionaire investor. And he was just saying that his new strategy is look this up, guys. You should be able to find it on X, but he's now retard maxing. So he doesn't think about things, right? And he was applying it to things like marriage. Like you find a pretty girl, you like her. Okay, great. Just get married. Just settle. Just retard max it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Then you get those benefits that help you build that American dream. Byron Norris wants the American dream. Coyote. Drew Van Runkle, I see him in the chat. What's up, gentlemen? Good morning, ladies. Nice to see you. If you're hanging out in the chat, drop a comment like an American flag, like Byron Norris here, a great American. Quest Fanning says he's still worried about the national debt. That could still screw an upper middle class family down the line. It's true, but also we have the most powerful military in the world. So how are they going to collect their debt? All right, well, so speaking of the greatest country in the world, before we get going on to the next segment, guys, don't forget, be like Quest Fanning, be like TML22, BH Norris, be real Americans. Support the Wake Up America show in the 4 Liberty shop at 4libertyshop.com. You guys will be so happy to see all the beautiful stuff that Stephanie has been creating for you guys in the past several weeks. 250 years of American greatness. Click on the 250 years of liberty. People are buying the Boston Tea Party mug like crazy. They love the 250th anniversary double-sided American flag. But I think we have a sleeper hit on our hands because people from outside of our community, just randos on like Shopify, are buying the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. And it's probably because it's so stinking beautiful. I'm going to buy 2 of them. So I've got one right now. I have the black one. And trust me, it's gorgeous. Wear that to church, wear that to golf, wear that to a party this summer. It's nice and cool and loose fitting. And it won't, if you have man boobs, it won't make you look like you have moobs. So it's a nice cut. But I love the black one, and now that I've finally lost a little weight, I feel confident enough to wear a white one. Because you know how it is, guys, when you get like, somebody like you're on the golf course and maybe you get sprayed with a little water on you and you're wearing a white T-shirt, and it's like, you're having the white T-shirt contest. Patriots gone wild. You don't want to be wearing a white shirt and then you get sprayed down with water and everybody sees your man boobs. ForLibertyShop.com. Head on over this morning, guys. Get yourself the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. Unlock that bonus content. You're going to love it. Why does this administration continue to prove the haters and the defeatists wrong so many times over and over? Yes. This is actual footage of the daring rescue of an American pilot in Iran. Good morning, America. Rise in freedom. Welcome to the greatest country that's ever existed on the face of this earth. A country that this Easter weekend proved once again we do not leave our warriors behind. Not in a mountain crevice, not in enemy territory, and not in the watch of Donald J. Trump. God bless America. Now, before we get into the details of what happened over the last 72 hours, and this is a story that reads like Tom Clancy wrote it, directed by John Ford and produced by someone who understood that America's not finished, not by a long shot. No, I need you to clear your head of everything that the media told you this weekend, because almost all of it is wrong, dead wrong, and we're going to fix that right now. Let's go back to Friday, April 3rd. An American F-15 Strike Eagle, one of the most advanced fighter jets ever built. This is a flying weapon system that can simultaneously fight the air and destroy the ground. It took a hit over southwest Iran and went down. The pilot and his weapons system officer, a colonel, a very highly respected colonel, eject from the aircraft into the mountains of one of the most hostile nations on earth. This is a nightmare scenario, okay? Retired Air Force Brigadier General Houston Cantwell told the AP it was the first time a U.S. fighter jet has been shot down in combat in over 20 years. 20 years, which means the last time that this happened, George W. Bush was president, and most of the people spreading rumors on social media this weekend were in middle school. The pilot, God bless him, was recovered by U.S. forces within hours of the crash on Friday. But the colonel, the weapons systems officer, he was still out there alone in the Zagros Mountains of southwestern Iran, and Iran knew it. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, immediately cordoned off the region. Iranian state television went on the air and told ordinary Iranian citizens to keep their eyes open for an American airman. The regime offered a $62,000 reward to anyone who could hand him over. 62 grand. That's a lot there. They were trying to turn every shepherd, every farmer, every Bakhtiari tribesman in those mountains into a bounty hunter. And then something happened that the American media did not understand and will not explain to you properly. The White House went quiet. Yes, Stephanie was asking me about this yesterday. What do you mean went quiet? What's with the rumors of the president dying and all this stuff? This is the skull and dagger. Here we are. You're going to get the real stuff here, the real poop here. The White House went quiet and the left lost its mind. Okay, but we're going to get to the spectacular meltdown in a moment, because what you first need to understand was what was actually happening while the fever swamp was cooking up its fantasies. So while that colonel was evading capture in the mountains, while the IRGC sent search parties and the Iranian government was essentially running a nationwide manhunt with a cash prize, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America was running one of the most audacious deception operations you will hear about in your lifetime. The CIA deliberately spread word inside Iran that U.S. Special Forces had already found the colonel, that a ground exfiltration was already underway, and this was completely false. It was a decoy. It was a ghost convoy, a masterpiece of psychological warfare designed to do one thing: confuse the IRGC and buy time. And while Iran was chasing a phantom, the CIA was using what a senior administration official described as unique capabilities to find this man. And find him they did. Unique capabilities. He was tucked into a mountain crevice in the Zagros mountain range. He was invisible to everyone except the eyes of the most powerful intelligence apparatus ever assembled by human civilization. The official put it this way: this was the ultimate needle in a haystack. But in this case, it was a brave American soul inside a mountain crevice, invisible but for the CIA's capabilities. So think about that, guys. A wounded American officer hiding in the rocks of enemy territory with the entire Iranian state machine hunting him. And the CIA found him anyway, because that is what American excellence looks like when you take the handcuffs off and you let these people do their jobs in the right mission in the right way. The CIA immediately transmitted his precise coordinates to the Pentagon and to the White House. And that's when Donald Trump made the call. Trump ordered the rescue operation personally, and what followed is already being described, and I'm quoting here, as one of the most challenging and complex missions in the history of U.S. Special Operations. You want to know why people in this country, real working people, people who have family in the military, for example, still believe in this nation? That is why. And here's where this story gets extraordinary, and we're going to walk through this carefully because the details matter and the media is going to get them wrong. Trump ordered dozens of aircraft armed, in his words, with, quote, the most lethal weapons in the world to fly into Iran and get that man out. It wasn't a surgical strike or a cruise missile fired from a ship 500 miles away. This was Americans flying into hostile airspace, boots on the ground, inside the sovereign territory of the Iranian regime in broad daylight. Trump said it himself, 7 hours over Iran. 7 hours. U.S. attack aircraft dropped bombs on Iranian military convoys that were closing in on the colonel's position. Every convoy that moved toward that mountain crevice got blown up, because that is the answer to the question, what happens when you send forces after an American warrior? Meanwhile, Special Operations Commandos closed in on the colonel's location, and then a firefight broke out in daylight. Al Jazeera's own correspondent quoted a U.S. official who said, and I love this, generally, special operations troops would go in for a rescue like that and try to extract someone very quickly in the darkness. This went on for hours. The IRGC was not going down without a fight, and neither were our guys. Our guys got to him. They got to the colonel. He was seriously wounded, but he was alive. They moved him to a transport aircraft that were waiting nearby, ready to fly him out of the country. And then, because the story needs more of a dramatic beat, the transport aircraft malfunctioned. And here's the part that tells you everything you need to know about the American military. When those planes could not fly, our forces did not abandon them. They blew them up. They destroyed their own aircraft on enemy soil rather than leave anything behind for the IRGC to parade on state television. It's so dramatic. Additional aircraft were immediately flown in. The colonel came home. 2 Black Hawk helicopters took hits during the operation but stayed airborne. They made it out. Not one American was killed. Not one. Yeah. God bless America. Trump posted just after midnight on Easter Sunday, "We got him." 3 words, and they hit like thunder. This is the first time in military memory that 2 U.S. pilots have been rescued separately, deep in enemy territory, and they are both coming home. God bless the United States military. God bless every commando, every pilot, every CIA officer who made this happen, and God bless the colonel, who is, according to his commander-in-chief, going to be just fine. Yes. Now, here's where the drama gets ratcheted up. Oh, did somebody go shopping at the gift shop this morning and unlock that sweet, sweet bonus content? Yes, you did. Thank you so much for heading over to forlibertyshop.com this morning, guys. Did we unlock it? Looks like we did. Frickety. Silly man. He went to the For Liberty shop and he got the polo, the 250th anniversary American flag polo. Yes. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button if you haven't already. We just described the daring raid that rescued 2 American pilots inside enemy territory. It was an unbelievable, daring daylight raid that resulted in saving the lives of 2 Americans. And all of it was cloaked under the smoke of obfuscation. You know what's funny too is I see a lot of these. I see a lot of the anti-war people, and they're saying, "Oh, it's terrible. Oh, it's awful. Oh, stop. We have to stop the war. This is evil, imperialist, capitalist, blah blah blah." And like the military, they're like, "We don't want to get American people killed. We're going to get American people killed." And meanwhile, you've got like the Americans who are the military members, the actual people who are either live service members now or people who are out. And a lot of the guys who are out are like, they're like, "Let me in. Let me in." I know it's shocking. I know it's shocking for the pacifist crowd, but there are surprisingly people who do sign up, volunteer to do this, and are glad to do it. I know that surprises some. We have unlocked phase 1 of the bonus content, which means that before John Miltimore joins us live at 8 a.m. Central, about 25 minutes or so from now, we'll get to watch the bonus content instead of commercials. You lucky dogs. So thank you very much, and let's hit that 150 to unlock the Great Grift Off bonus content. People do love that polo, though. I'm going to order my second one here after the show. Okay, so while all of this was happening this weekend, while American warriors were flying 7 hours over Iran, dropping bombs on the IRGC convoys, blowing up their own planes that rather than leaving them behind, and pulling a colonel out of a mountain crevice in the Zagros Range, real shit. The American left was doing what the American left does best, making complete and utter fools of themselves on the internet. Let me paint you a picture. Let me paint you a picture, okay? So, Saturday, April 4th, the White House calls a press lid at 11 in the morning. Standard procedure for a president who's clearly doing something he cannot announce publicly. Trump has not been seen publicly since his Wednesday primetime address, and he was not going to the golf course this weekend. And for the leftist brain, which operates on a very thin layer of logic sandwiched between 2 thick layers of wishful thinking, this could only mean one thing. Trump was dying at Walter Reed. I'm not making this up. So, a man named Ed Krasenstein, a professional Trump hater on X, fired the first shot. Breaking. Speculation is rising that Donald Trump is at Walter Reed Medical Center. Notice the word speculation. He put it right in his own breaking news alert. Speculation, as in, I made this up, but I called it breaking news. Then, a Canadian journalist named Mark Slapinski, yes, that is his real name, Slapinski. He posted there are credible reports that Donald Trump has been hospitalized. Credible reports? From whom? From Krasenstein, the man who just said, breaking news, speculation is rising. And then this is my favorite part of this entire debacle. A woman called Dr. Jane Ruby posted a video on X that she claimed showed Trump's motorcade rushing him to Walter Reed. The video had already racked up huge views before anyone bothered to check what it actually was. It was Trump's motorcade leaving Butler, Pennsylvania, after the assassination attempt. The left was using the footage of the day someone tried to kill Trump as evidence that Donald Trump was sick in a hospital. Meanwhile, and I want you to picture this, guys, a freelance journalist named Andrew Layden actually got in his car, drove to Walter Reed, arrived at 1:50 in the afternoon, and posted this. Saturday, April 4th, 2026, 1:50 p.m. Outside of Walter Reed Military Medical Center, no Marine One, no motorcade, roads open. The most devastating fact check in the history of journalism was just one man in a parking lot and an empty driveway. The White House rapid response team summed it up perfectly. Deranged liberals cook up insane conspiracy theories when the president goes 12 hours without speaking to the press. They said nothing when Biden routinely went 12 days without speaking to the press. Good one, Mr. President. Oh, wake up and stretch, guys. Wake up and stretch. So, and where was Donald Trump when all this was happening? He was in the Oval Office monitoring the live rescue operation, ordering commandos into Iran. They thought he was on a ventilator. He was running the most daring search and rescue operation in American history. And well done there, Mr. President. Competence. Can you believe it? Actual competence. And then came Easter morning, and folks, I've been in media a long time now. I have seen a lot of moments, but I want you to understand what happened at 8:03 in the morning on Easter Sunday, April the 5th, because nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the American presidency, and I genuinely do not think anything like it will ever happen again. The rescue had been confirmed just hours earlier. We got him. The colonel was safe. Trump sat down at his phone and typed the following, and I'm reading this to you, the verified, confirmed, fact-check, actual text of the actual post. Trump says on Truth Social, Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it! Exclamation, exclamation, explanation. Open the effing straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. Praise be to Allah. You'll be living in hell, you crazy bastards. Now, guys, take a moment. Let that wash over you. On Easter Sunday, the holiest day in the Christian calendar, hours after his military pulled an American colonel out of a mountain crevice in the Zagros Mountains. Get him out of there. Trump shows up with 7 hours in Iran. The reaching down for the colonel, the special forces guys are laying waste to the farmers and IRGC heading up the mountain. And Trump says on Easter Sunday, after it's all complete, praise be to Allah. Allah? This is Jesus' day, sir. Mr. President, this is Easter. Praise be to Allah. Now, the left is clutching their pearls. Some right-wingers were deeply offended. Chuck Schumer called it ranting like an unhinged madman. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut said it was completely and utterly unhinged and suggested invoking the 25th Amendment on a man who just successfully executed one of the most complex rescue operations in the history of U.S. Special Ops. Do these people hear themselves? Here is what the left will never understand about praise be to Allah on Easter Sunday, and the pearl clutchers on the right who won't understand this. Hey, what's up, Randy? Randy Savage? Is that my Randy? Good to see you, brother. Thanks so much for signing up to support us. We appreciate you, bud. So, praise be to Allah on Easter Sunday. He wasn't confused. He's not senile. That was a troll, a perfect surgical masterclass level troll directed at the mullahs in Tehran. The day before, Trump had signed off with glory be to God. Now, on Easter Sunday, he signs off with their own phrase directed at the regime that just spent 48 hours trying to catch one of his warriors. It was a message that said, I just beat you on your own territory, in your own mountains, with your own people watching, and I'm not even taking it seriously. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Good morning. Macho Man, Randy Savage. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Praise be to Allah. So the Iranian embassy in Thailand responded and can't make this stuff up. They said, judging by how POTUS swears like a teenager, it seems the U.S. has reached the Stone Age sooner than expected. The Iranian embassy is doing social media clapbacks while their convoys are getting blown up and their air defense systems are being systematically dismantled. And now, as of this morning, Trump has announced 1 o'clock today, he will hold a press conference at the Oval Office with Pentagon officials to discuss the operation and the Strait of Hormuz deadline. Tuesday, guys, 8 p.m. Eastern, 48 hours away. So whatever you think of the man, whatever your feelings, the left thought he was in a hospital bed. He was ordering commandos to Iran. Now he's giving press conferences and setting deadlines. There's no one on earth doing whatever this is that Trump is doing, and I'm here for it. I'm sorry. I'm retard maxing, and I'm plan trusting these days. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. Oh, you're not a real libertarian. No, Austin, he's not a real libertarian. No. Hell yeah, I am. I'm an American libertarian. I love America. God bless it. I'm not with the panicans. I'm not with the defeatists. I'm with the let's win for liberty, baby. Let's just win, baby, win. I am a real American. I am a real American. See that? Can you see the we the people there on the side of that knife blade? That beautiful American. It's not. It's the autofocus will get you every time. Beautiful. We the people. You can't get that on forlibertyshop.com. That's an exclusive. Coyote says, can't find a link for the polo? I don't see it anywhere in the Griff shop. Austin, shouldn't you be? I probably should just put that on the front page. But since you're my homeboy, I can do two things at once. I'm going to drop that link there in the chat for you. 102 people on Rumble. What's up, guys? Good morning. Rise in freedom. We've been talking this morning about Trump's daring commando raid. We've got John Miltimore joining us live here in about 12 to 15 minutes. You've already unlocked phase one of the bonus content, which means that no commercials. You get to watch the mini documentary instead of commercials for John Miltimore. So congrats. Way to go. Thank you very much for all you do for us this morning, and check out that amazing polo. Dropped it there for you, and appreciate that Quest for being Johnny on the spot there. The Defeatists, we're going to be talking to Tom Pappert this morning from the Tennessee Star at 8:30 a.m. Central. We're going to talk about the Defeatists and why they're wrong about this and why they always were. The people who have been wrong consistently, embarrassingly, almost impressively wrong, because the Iran rescue story does not exist in a vacuum. It's the latest chapter in a much bigger story about what happens when you believe in America and what happens when you don't believe in America. So just this weekend, while the rescue was unfolding, Wall Street Journal columnist Andy Kessler published a piece that captures exactly what I'm talking about. He pointed out that after, and I'm quoting, a few short weeks of the Iran war, multiple New York Times columnists had already used the word quagmire in a few short weeks. And The Guardian actually declared that Trump has lost his Iran war. Kessler nailed it perfectly. He called them Baghdad Bob. You guys remember Baghdad Bob? Remember old Baghdad? Saddam Hussein's information minister. Saddam Hussein's information minister, Baghdad Bob. I think we all remember him. Let's see. I got some clips.
About 3/4 of them so far, and there is some remnants of them left. They said that they have entered Baghdad with 65 tanks into the center of the city. And I'm telling you, this is not true. The operations are still ongoing, and I can tell you, and you can record it on me.
Bro, they just tank mogged them. I tell you that there are no American tanks in Iraq. Hold on, as they
not true.
There are no tanks in Baghdad. Look at that. There's the American M1 tank sitting right there. He tank mogged them. You know how you looks max when you're looks maxing and you get mogged by somebody who's more attractive than you standing next to them? Well, that was the American M1 tank. They got tank mogged. You have no idea what I'm saying. Okay. Saddam Hussein's information. Forget it. So he was the guy who says, we're destroying them, Baghdad Bob. That is the mainstream media and a lot of the alternative media in 2026, standing in the rubble of Iranian military infrastructure, declaring American defeat, while a colonel's being pulled out of a mountain crevice by SEAL Team 6. And it's not just the media, it is a movement. It's a defeatism industrial complex that's been running in this country for years and is now fully exposed for what it is. Last month, they had the No Kings rallies. They had to make them No Tyrants rallies in England because they actually have kings there. Guys, woman, whoa, man, whoa, man. She was a thief. You gotta believe. She took my dog and my heart. No. So last month they had the No Kings rallies, 3,300 of them all in 50 states in March 28th. And it wasn't some spontaneous uprising of concerned citizens, as you might have noticed. They had the permit for the flagship rally in St. Paul, Minnesota. The lead coordinator was Indivisible, which is a Democratic political advocacy organization that's received millions of dollars from George Soros's Open Society Foundations. The money is in the grant database. It's public. Soros's foundation gave Indivisible a $3 million grant, and Fox News Digital identified a network of approximately 500 organizations with an estimated $3 billion in combined annual revenues behind these rallies, including groups funded by Neville Roy Singham, an American tech tycoon who's an avowed communist living in China. I want you to sit with that. An avowed communist living in China is funding organizations that are coordinating mass protests across the United States. And the protest in London had to be rebranded, of course, No Tyrants, because they have the actual king over there, and they realized how ridiculous they looked. The New York Times recently ran a 4,100-word essay that began with the sentence, "We had a good run. We had a good run. We had a good run." The New York Times is writing the obituary for the greatest nation in the history of human civilization, typing it on a MacBook, while the U.S. military is running 7-hour rescue operations inside Iran. Meanwhile, out in California, where the defeatists have had full control for decades, they now have some of the highest electricity prices in the country and $6.50 a gallon for premium gas, despite having plenty of retrievable oil in their ground. And the same people who created those conditions are now complaining about affordability. And AOC and Bernie Sanders, the charter members of what Kessler at the Wall Street Journal brilliantly calls the Socialists for Defeatism Society, they want to put a moratorium on artificial intelligence data centers, a moratorium on productivity, a moratorium on the future, while China is building them as fast as they possibly can. Here's the thing about defeatism, and this is what I want you to take with you today from this show. Defeatism is not neutral. Defeatism is not humble. Defeatism is a choice. It is a political strategy. It is funded, it is coordinated, and it is wrong. It was wrong about Iran. It was wrong about Trump in the Oval Office. It was wrong about America's military. It has always been wrong. A colonel came home from a mountain crevice in the Zagros Range this weekend because someone in the Oval Office refused to be a defeatist. And at 1 o'clock today, that man is going to stand in front of the cameras and tell you about it. Wake up, America. The defeatists have never been right about this country, and they're not going to start being right now. You know what Thomas Jefferson and I have in common, guys? We both believe that the right cup of coffee in the morning is not a luxury. It is a necessity of self-governance. And that is why I drink Jeffersonian Java from Founding Flavors, our most popular coffee, the #1 selling product at forlibertyshop.com. And honestly, it's the reason I can do this show at this hour without becoming a danger to myself and others. It is a perfectly balanced, light roast, bold, smooth, notes of chocolate and caramel, rated 4.9 stars by customers who take their coffee as seriously as their constitutional rights. If you are drinking something that comes in a green cup with a mermaid on it right now, I'm not judging you, but I'm a little disappointed in you. Go to forlibertyshop.com, get yourself a bag of Jeffersonian Java, and drink what freedom tastes like.
Trust me, I'm not a fan of Pam Bondi nor Kristi Noem. But I need to call out that it's no surprise to me that the first two prominent people pushed out of this administration were women. Let me explain. The conservative women that Trump handpicks, who align themselves with an agenda that controls women, restricting our rights, limiting our autonomy, and pushing us back into this straitjacket of femininity that is only in service of men. There's a familiar pattern here. Women are brought in, packaged Mar-a-Lago style, and lifted up as long as they commit to wholeheartedly serve the interests of the patriarch at the top. Now, it looks like power, or proximity to power with a big title, but it never comes with job security and protection. There's no secure place inside this hand-picked patriarchal body that systemically disrespects, devalues, and discriminates against women and girls.
I really hope that she keeps talking. She's Gavin Newsom's wife. I really hope she just keeps talking. Thank you guys so much for all you've done for us financially this morning. You guys are blowing me away. We unlocked the bonus content in the first hour. I feel amazing. Appreciate you. Coming up, the politicians have been telling you guys that the middle class has been dying for 50 years. Turns out they were just mad that Americans kept graduating out of it. John Miltimore joins us live coming up after the break. Don't go away. Enjoy the bonus content. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. In the shadow of Boston's bustling docks and Puritan meeting houses on September 27, 1722, a boy was born who would become the most dangerous man in British America. Samuel Adams, second cousin to the more famous John, was raised in a strict Puritan household where liberty was preached from the pulpit and rebellion brewed in the streets. His father, a prosperous maltster and political firebrand, taught him early that no king had the right to tax a free man without consent. Young Sam absorbed every word. He graduated from Harvard in 1740, but unlike most sons of merchants, Sam showed little interest in making money. He preferred politics, philosophy, and the raw power of the printed word. When his father's business collapsed under British tax schemes, Sam took the lesson to heart. Tyranny always began with the purse. He became a tax collector himself, deliberately terrible at the job, so he could expose the system's corruption from inside. By the 1760s, Boston was a powder keg. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the presence of redcoats on every corner, Sam saw it all as a deliberate plot to enslave free Englishmen. He didn't just protest, he organized. Quietly, relentlessly, he built the most effective political machine in the colonies, the Sons of Liberty. While others wrote elegant essays, Sam worked in the taverns, the shipyards, the churches, and the streets. He recruited mechanics, sailors, apprentices, and merchants. He turned anger into action. On the cold winter night of March 5, 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd on King Street. 5 colonists lay dead in the snow, the Boston Massacre. Sam Adams seized the moment. He demanded the soldiers be tried for murder. He flooded the newspapers with fiery accounts. He organized massive funerals that became public rallies. The British troops were withdrawn from the city, a moral victory that tasted like blood in Sam's mouth. 3 years later, the British tried again with the Tea Act. On the evening of December 16, 1773, Sam stood in the Old South Meeting House as thousands packed the hall. When the final plea to the governor was rejected, he rose and gave the signal with one calm sentence: "This meeting can do nothing more to save the country." That was the code. Within minutes, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dozens of men, including Paul Revere, swarmed the 3 tea ships in Boston Harbor. That night, 342 chests of East India Company tea worth nearly $1 million in today's money splashed into the salty water. Samuel Adams had lit the fuse of revolution. The British struck back hard. They closed Boston Harbor, revoked the Massachusetts Charter, and sent more troops. Sam responded by creating the Committees of Correspondence, a secret network that linked every colony like a hidden web. He wrote letter after letter, pamphlet after pamphlet, under pseudonyms that kept British spies guessing. He organized the First Continental Congress in 1774 and pushed the most radical demands. By April 1775, the British governor, General Thomas Gage, had had enough. He planned to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock in Lexington and seize military stores in Concord. On the night of April 18th, Paul Revere and others rode out with Sam's own warning: "The regulars are coming out." Adams and Hancock escaped just in time. The next morning, shots rang out on Lexington Green. The war had begun, and Samuel Adams had helped start it. In Philadelphia, at the Second Continental Congress, Sam sat among the delegates wearing the same plain brown coat and worn shoes he always wore. While others hesitated, he pushed relentlessly for independence. When John Dickinson argued for reconciliation, Sam whispered to his cousin John, "I am for independence, now." On July 4, 1776, he proudly signed the Declaration of Independence, his signature bold and defiant. After independence, Sam served in Congress, helped draft the Articles of Confederation, and returned to Massachusetts as a leader of the state Senate.
He fought against the proposed new constitution in 1787, fearing it gave too much power to a central government. Only after a Bill of Rights was promised did he finally support ratification. He lived to see his dream fulfilled. In his later years, crippled by tremors and nearly blind, the old revolutionary still attended town meetings, still spoke for liberty, still wore the simple clothes of the people. He died on October 2, 1803, at the age of 81, buried in Boston's Granary Burying Ground near the victims of the massacre he had immortalized. Samuel Adams was never a soldier on the battlefield. He never fired a musket at redcoats, yet few men did more to bring about the American Revolution. He was the master agitator, the tireless organizer, the man who turned scattered anger into a united flame. While Washington fought with steel and Franklin charmed with wit, Sam Adams fought with ideas, committees, newspapers, and pure, unrelenting will. He was the firebrand who lit the torch that became a nation. The man who proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in a revolution is not a sword, but a stubborn Boston brewer's son who simply refused to bow.
Well, Wake Up America, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. It's nice to see such a nice big crowd today. Wow. Very generous of you. Thank you for joining us. I know you got a lot of places, a lot of streams that you could be watching, but you're watching mine. You're here with me live, and I'm very grateful for that. If you would, please, sir, could I have some more? Click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well, especially if you love the content and the incredible guests that I have for you in this hour back to back. The American Enterprise Institute just dropped a bombshell report showing that the upper middle class has tripled in size since 1979, from 10% of American families all the way to 31%, and that for the first time in American history, more families now sit above the core middle class than below it. It's the most important economic story that no one in the mainstream media wants to talk about. So we'll talk about it here. My next guest has spent his career at the crossroads of free market economics and plain English journalism. Senior editor at the American Institute for Economic Research, contributor to the Washington Examiner, etc., etc. It's Monday, so we got to have a little Miltimore. John Miltimore, welcome to Wake Up America.
Hey, good morning, AP. Good to be with you.
Good to see you again, John. Thanks so much for being our regular Monday for going on 3.5 almost stinking years. We've been going on.
That's hard to believe.
It's crazy how long that this show has been going on. It's hard to keep a podcast alive. So thanks for being a part of it, John. We really appreciate your insight. John, I read this piece about a report from American Enterprise Institute that says the middle class is shrinking, but the reason is that people are graduating up into higher income brackets, not falling down into poverty. I'd like to picture myself saying something like that at a Bernie Sanders rally, and then all these angry feminists tear me to shreds. Death by, like, not snoo, but they would kill you if you said something like that too. Or a J.D. Vance rally.
You might be right.
Your thoughts?
No, this is something that has been going on for a very long time. This report is new, but this trend is not new. I think I first wrote about this probably 10 years ago. And yeah, that was basically the thrust. The middle class is shrinking, and that sends people into a panic. If you look in 1970 or so, you had about half of Americans were in the middle class, which means that their income fell between 2/3 and maybe twice the median income in America. And today that would be about $80,000, household income. And since then it was about 61%. It's fallen to about 50%. And people look at that and they say the middle class is shrinking, but most of those people are going up to the higher income brackets. These are people that are making more money. The doom and gloom really sells, but what we have is, the middle class is percentage points about 11, 12% smaller than it was in 1970, but that's because you have most of those people are making much more money, and they're in that upper income threshold. Why the doom and gloom sells so much better? It's interesting. I think politics is good at selling dissatisfaction, right? And you're right. Whether it's a Bernie Sanders rally or maybe a JD Vance rally, everybody wants to think the middle class is getting pounded, that something is not right with the American economic system, and there are plenty of things wrong about it. Don't get me wrong.
And aren't the things that people, because people talk about affordability, I can't afford anything. Everything that you can't afford are the things that the government has stepped in and subsidized, like education, housing, medicine, John, all of those things. The cost of TVs, color TVs, has come down. I was at Sam's Club the other day. You can buy a 65-inch or 75-inch TV for like $300 or $400. Now, why is it that people are unable to understand or at least admit that Obamacare screwed everything? Thanks, Obama.
Obamacare made it worse, but if you look even the trends before that, we don't have a free market healthcare system, right? We can go back. The roots of that go back to when, and I'm sure you know this story, Austin, when they tried to, there was price controls, and you could only, offer employees so much. So they said, well, you know what, to get around those price controls, we're going to offer employees healthcare. And that was how the government got, first got involved in this, like it was through price controls, and suddenly you had your employment was tied with your health care. And that led to this system that is nothing. There are no prices in our healthcare, right? You go in, nobody looks at the price of anything. Like the only question we have, well, will insurance cover that or how much? And but AEI, I want to give them another shout out to make the point that you was talking about. They have a graphic that shows where prices are going up on everything and where prices are falling. And you look at where government is involved, everything from healthcare to schooling and these things, prices have doubled and tripled. And where government's not involved, prices are coming down. And flat screens is just one example. Laptops, smartphones, all these things. All of these things are becoming more and more affordable, where they're available not to just the upper income people, but middle class, even people in lower classes are able to get their hands on all these good commodities. It's because government is not involved in their production or distribution.
I've got the screen pulled up right now. Actually, it's got the chart price changes from January of 2000 to June of 2022. You can see it up there on your screen. Things that have gotten more expensive versus things that have gotten more affordable. Things that are more affordable, cell phone services, computer software, toys, TVs, cars and household furnishings, and some clothing has started to spike a little bit, but in recent years, but we had a pandemic. However, the massive increases in hospital services, college tuition and fees, college textbooks, college textbooks. Why have textbooks gotten more expensive, John? Has the technology for college textbooks gotten more advanced? From 2000,
why? It's because professors can assign their own books to their class and they can charge whatever they want for it. And it's not a market really either. If you look, you have to buy the textbook, right? I remember taking classes, and this is a long time ago. I've been out of graduate school for a very long time. Even if you could get the book online, nope, they're making you buy it through the university. And I'm not sure that I think some books are sold that way. I'm not saying all books are. But yeah, that's why they can get away with it. Every new semester, they say, oh, you got to buy this book, and it's required.
Yeah, well, it's just fascinating because you would think that with such a enormous growth in the cost of college textbooks, that there must have been some sort of new revelation that has revolutionized the creation of college textbooks, that they're so much more valuable now, but they're not really more valuable.
They're printed on some special paper, right? They must be or gold plated or something.
Yeah, I love this chart. Average hourly wages have gone up. Childcare and nursery school. That's another one. That's why a lot of parents really are freaking out. Food and beverages and housing. So all of these things, childcare
is a good one to look at, because again, what we're seeing is government more and more involved in regulating childcare, and it makes it much more expensive. And people say, well, you just can't have anyone watching children. Well, why not? It was done like that for a very long time. Parents actually care about leaving their child with someone who's not going to treat that child poorly or see their child endangered. But, from across the U.S., we've seen states and even cities that are regulating childcare in all these ways that really drive up cost.
Well, who was that chick from MSNBC back in the day who said that your kids don't belong to you, they belong to us? Remember that?
I can't keep them straight. Probably Sunny Hostin. I saw she was, just last week discouraging Americans, saying, well, we can't have.
Here we go.
I've got more children.
Here's the clip. You might not hear it, John, because I might have forgotten to turn on your audio, but here it is.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have, because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
There we go. We make better investments. John, could you hear it or not? I don't know.
I could. Who was that speaking?
That was Melissa Harris Perry, and she was talking about the kids don't belong to their parents; they belong to the community. That's
I tell you, that's where we reach peak collectivism when people start to think that my kids are not mine, but they're some part of the collective. I hear that stuff, and it's like you wake up in an alternate universe.
It's scary to hear it too, because it does sort of, every once in a while the left lets the mask slip on what their real plans and desires are for our country and for our communities and our children. And when you look at charts that look fairly banal, like, this chart of the century here, where it shows childcare and nursery school costs going up, that represents more than just government spending so that, poor parents can be able to afford to send their kids to childcare. What it represents is the ideological project of the cultural Marxists of the left, who for them, that government spending represents the strings that are attached that they can then use to indoctrinate those children into their worldviews. So they use our tax dollars as an ideological weapon against us, John.
No, that's exactly right. It's one of those chilling things I looked at years ago. I don't think many on the left care that their policies don't work. I don't think they care. What they care about is expanding state control over as much of the economy as they can. And you can point out that, well, these programs are failing. Like we're giving, whether you look at spending on food stamps or on child care and say, well, look what happens when this happens. They don't care. What they really want to do is see these programs expanded to every level, whether it works or not.
Yeah. I'm speaking to John Miltimore this morning. It's Monday, so we got a Miltimore. You want a Monday? You got to have a Monday? You want to have a Miltimore? John Miltimore joins us live from the belly of the beast. That's Minnesota to you people out there, the dark heart of leftism. Stab it. Stab at thee. I stab at thee. John Miltimore is a good guy. He works for American Institute of Economic Research. We're talking this morning about people moving up and down in the middle class, out of the middle class. Are they moving out of the middle class, up? Yes, they're moving up, but that doesn't really sell. John, you couldn't run for office on these kinds of numbers and statistics, because I got to tell you, when I have conversations like this, and I've been following this stuff for a long time too, and when I talk to people, it's kind of like you can see their eyes glazing out. Like they don't go full Jim Carrey, Dumb and Dumber, going, nah, I'm not listening, right? But they do sort of like tune out. Why don't people want to hear good news, John?
I'm not sure I'm capable of answering that question. Like there's some deep psychological, you need a shrink on here, I think, to be able to answer that. It goes back to what bleeds leads in newspapers, right? People want to see, the train wrecks, and they want to believe, everything's going to hell. And here's the thing. I'm not, Austin, I've been in the same circles for a long time. There's certain libertarians that are very Panglossian in the way they see things. No matter what's happening, they say the world's getting better. No, it's better. GDP's going up. Everything's getting better. I'm not one of those. I'm willing to look and say, that certain things are, they're a big problem. And I can point at whether it's the national debt, okay? Like you look at, we're approaching $40 trillion. I can't say everything is getting better when we're accumulating this debt that is going to be a big problem for future generations. That said, in so many ways, the economy is getting better, and we're better off materially than we've ever been.
Did you
things
just
like
use an
healthcare.
18th century insult against me, John? Did you just refer to me as
No.
Panglossian?
No, I said we're not like that. I think you and I are not Panglossian. For those who don't know, that comes from Candide, Dr. Pangloss. He's a religious person, who always says we're in the best of all possible worlds. And people say, well, that's kind of silly. And Voltaire was mocking that, But I see a lot of libertarians that are like that with the economy.
You know what? I'm going to jump into that. Actually, you can use that insult from me because I do see a lot of good stuff happening in the world. I feel like one of those libertarians. I do feel like I'm on an island, and it's mostly people like you, John, who see the darkness of the national debt and these things that are coming to destroy us. And it's like, yeah, for sure. But like, do you ever figure that maybe we just won't collapse? Maybe we'll just, maybe Milton Friedman was right about the Great Depression. Remember when he gave that speech to Ben Bernanke? And Ben Bernanke was like, to Milton Friedman, he said that you're right, we caused the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve, and thanks to you, we won't do it again. But Milton Friedman's answer to the 1929 banking crash was that they should have just printed more money, John. So,
naturally, I think there's a lot of central bankers that seem to have that attitude.
The central bank, that was Milton Friedman. That's not no central banking stooge. That was Milton freaking Friedman. Saying
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that was Bernanke.
No, well, Bernanke was saying, yeah, we're going to do what Milton Friedman says. And instead of letting the market collapse, we're going to print more money, which, of course, the Austrians,
Well, the problem there, Austin, is you learn the wrong lessons from that. And I look at the economy today. I think in many ways we do have a robust economy and people are better off materially, but I also see our political system is failing. I mean, partly because of situations like that. We've learned, you can print money to alleviate crises, and that works for a while, right? You can do this. We saw it during the pandemic, and the central bank says, sure, we can do that. We can print $8 trillion over, a period of 24 months. But the bill comes due eventually. And we have all these entitlement programs that we can't fund. And we're going to be, here's the thing, 2031, 32, whatever it's going to be, we're not going to have enough to fund Social Security anymore. And what's going to happen immediately under law is we're going to see a 25% across the board cut in Social Security. You want to see people lose it?
Yeah.
Watch what happens when that happens.
You know why that's not going to happen? Because the United States is going to find more oil, more lithium. We're going to find, I'm going to be very Panglossian here. There's going to be an asteroid that's going to hit a very, very remote part of the American desert. It will cause no damage, maybe kill a few deer or some things out there, a few like snakes. And then that mine's going to be full of gold and silver and lithium and precious metals, and it will be all America's. And it will be about $2 or $3 trillion of value out of this rock. Am I being excessively or unreasonably optimistic? What would you say?
That is very Panglossian, and I hope that happens. I am not going to count on that happening.
Yeah, so you can see all the terrible things. Victory is guaranteed, John. I mean, not victory. Defeat is guaranteed if you do nothing. You're always going to have a worst case scenario if you do nothing. But if you do something, if you try, if you're a doer, right, not a defeatist. And my next guest, Tom Papper, we're going to talk about defeatists. But if you're not a defeatist, if you actually work to step in and change your reality, to change your future, rather than being, I think a lot of libertarians are a little bit too passive in things. It's always a reactionary kind of a feel to what's happening in the world, rather than an activist. Let's do something. Let's make the future what it is. I'm not saying that's you necessarily, John, but like I do think that we can build the future. In a sense, we can't, and if we don't, then we're definitely going to be doomed, and Social Security will be cut, and all of the worst apocalyptic futures that Ron Paul could have never predicted, even in his most happening bunkers, John, won't happen if we work to make it to change. Nothing will change unless we change our behaviors.
I applaud that attitude, and I think we need to think that way. We need to recognize these are solvable problems. My concern is that we have two political parties that can't agree on anything, and that they're not going to be. These problems are fixable, but I don't see adults in the room that can fix them, and that concerns me.
Boy, you are so wrong about that, John. You are so wrong. I was watching the CIA do something right this weekend. I don't know if you've read much about that daring rescue. At least the U.S. military seems to have their shit together.
I still think the U.S. military is the preeminent, fighting force in the world, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, me too. I'm very grateful for that because they saved the lives of 2 Americans downed in Iran. We're going to talk to Tom Papert here in a few minutes, John, but I want to give you the floor right now to say anything that you think we might have missed on that. I want you to pee in all of our Coke. Any bad things that are going to happen. PP in our cornflakes, John. What's the worst case scenario here?
No, I'm not a worst case scenario guy. Like I said, I think America can still experience a new morning and fix some of these long-term trends that do need our attention. But it'll take some politicians that are acting like adults. And if you look, I don't see either party having a lot of those. And it's going to take actually getting Congress involved. This is one of my grievances with the Trump administration. Too much executive action, not enough working with Congress, which means that these aren't going to have the full weight of law if you just have presidents that are passing executive orders for X, Y, and Z. And Trump's passing so many of these, signing so many of these, I can't even keep track of it. I think he just signed one recently on NCAA, the transfer portal, and there's always one coming out. We need to remember that a republic has, Congress involved, get lawmakers involved, and that sometimes that means working with those across the aisle, but that's the way it has to be.
John, you're a good man, but I don't think that Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, AOC, have any interest in working with us, but we'll try. John, have a wonderful day, and we'll follow your Substack at The Take. John Miltimore's The Take, right?
The Take by John Miltimore. I got something going up this week on the Rooney Rule in the NFL. The Rooney Rule may be going bye-bye.
Oh, interesting. We'll have to check that out, but only on The Take. That's John Miltimore's Substack. Give him a follow. Thanks, John. See you next Monday.
You have a good week.
Yep, you too. Get him. Yeah, I am a real American. Still ahead, the left called Trump brain dead in a hospital bed while he was ordering commandos into Iran. The media called the war a quagmire while the colonel was being pulled out of a mountain crevice. And George Soros spent $3 million so people could march around with signs that don't agree with each other. Award-winning political reporter Tom Papert, who covers this machine up close, joins me next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network. Yeehaw! Do 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 do. Bum, 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 bum.
In the shadow of Boston's bustling docks and Puritan meeting houses on September 27, 1722, a boy was born who would become the most dangerous man in British America. Samuel Adams, second cousin to the more famous John, was raised in a strict Puritan household where liberty was preached from the pulpit and rebellion brewed in the streets. His father, a prosperous maltster and political firebrand, taught him early that no king had the right to tax a free man without consent. Young Sam absorbed every word. He graduated from Harvard in 1740, but unlike most sons of merchants, Sam showed little interest in making money. He preferred politics, philosophy, and the raw power of the printed word. When his father's business collapsed under British tax schemes, Sam took the lesson to heart. Tyranny always began with the purse. He became a tax collector himself, deliberately terrible at the job, so he could expose the system's corruption from inside. By the 1760s, Boston was a powder keg. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the presence of redcoats on every corner, Sam saw it all as a deliberate plot to enslave free Englishmen. He didn't just protest, he organized. Quietly, relentlessly, he built the most effective political machine in the colonies, the Sons of Liberty. While others wrote elegant essays, Sam worked in the taverns, the shipyards, the churches, and the streets. He recruited mechanics, sailors, apprentices, and merchants. He turned anger into action. On the cold winter night of March 5, 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd on King Street. 5 colonists lay dead in the snow, the Boston Massacre. Sam Adams seized the moment. He demanded the soldiers be tried for murder. He flooded the newspapers with fiery accounts. He organized massive funerals that became public rallies. The British troops were withdrawn from the city, a moral victory that tasted like blood in Sam's mouth. 3 years later, the British tried again with the Tea Act. On the evening of December 16, 1773, Sam stood in the Old South Meeting House as thousands packed the hall. When the final plea to the governor was rejected, he rose and gave the signal with one calm sentence: "This meeting can do nothing more to save the country." That was the code. Within minutes, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dozens of men, including Paul Revere, swarmed the 3 tea ships in Boston Harbor. That night, 342 chests of East India Company tea worth nearly $1 million in today's money splashed into the salty water. Samuel Adams had lit the fuse of revolution. The British struck back hard. They closed Boston Harbor, revoked the Massachusetts Charter, and sent more troops. Sam responded by creating the Committees of Correspondence, a secret network that linked every colony like a hidden web. He wrote letter after letter, pamphlet after pamphlet, under pseudonyms that kept British spies guessing. He organized the First Continental Congress in 1774 and pushed the most radical demands. By April 1775, the British governor, General Thomas Gage, had had enough. He planned to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock in Lexington and seize military stores in Concord. On the night of April 18th, Paul Revere and others rode out with Sam's own warning: "The regulars are coming out." Adams and Hancock escaped just in time. The next morning, shots rang out on Lexington Green. The war had begun, and Samuel Adams had helped start it. In Philadelphia, at the Second Continental Congress, Sam sat among the delegates wearing the same plain brown coat and worn shoes he always wore. While others hesitated, he pushed relentlessly for independence. When John Dickinson argued for reconciliation, Sam whispered to his cousin John, "I am for independence, now." On July 4, 1776, he proudly signed the Declaration of Independence, his signature bold and defiant. After independence, Sam served in Congress, helped draft the Articles of Confederation, and returned to Massachusetts as a leader of the state Senate. He fought against the proposed new Constitution in 1787, fearing it gave too much power to a central government. Only after a Bill of Rights was promised did he finally support ratification. He lived to see his dream fulfilled. In his later years, crippled by tremors and nearly blind, the old revolutionary still attended town meetings, still spoke for liberty, still wore the simple clothes of the people. He died on October 2, 1803, at the age of 81, buried in Boston's Granary Burying Ground near the victims of the massacre he had immortalized. Samuel Adams was never a soldier on the battlefield. He never fired a musket at redcoats, yet few men did more to bring about the American Revolution. He was the master agitator, the tireless organizer, the man who turned scattered anger into a united flame. While Washington fought with steel and Franklin charmed with wit, Sam Adams fought with ideas, committees, newspapers, and pure, unrelenting will. He was the firebrand who lit the torch that became a nation. The man who proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in a revolution is not a sword, but a stubborn Boston brewer's son who simply refused to bow. In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, Cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them." Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to.
I was just talking to John Miltimore about how we live in the best possible world, and he called me Panglossian. That isn't how it went down, but something like that if you were there. Welcome back to Wake Up America Show. Yeah, I'm optimistic. When you hear people who are actually competent, you hear people like Marco Rubio, who you kind of thought was like a mindless neocon all the way back in 2016, but if you've been following things, is now kind of like the America First guy in the White House other than Trump. How could you not be, I don't know, a little Panglossian? Some of these 18th century insults. Let's bring it up to the 21st century. Easter weekend gave us one of the most dramatic illustrations in recent memory of what defeatism actually looks like in practice. So while American special operators were running a 7-hour rescue mission inside Iran, the media was declaring the war a quagmire. Social media was spreading recycled footage of the Butler assassination attempt and calling it proof that Trump was hospitalized. And the same network of Soros-funded organizations that coordinated 3,300 No Kings rallies last month was still insisting America was on the verge of fascism. My next guest covers the political and media infrastructure behind all of it. He's an award-winning reporter at the Tennessee Star and the Star News Network, Tom Pappert. Welcome back to the Wake Up America Show. We're glad to have you here, sir.
Glad to be here, Austin. I look forward to talking about how dumb some of our colleagues in the conservative libertarian media were over the weekend,
they were
as well as our enemies on the left.
Certainly. They were. It was this weird, we know there's a red-green alliance where like the communists and the Islamists get together, but too often I feel like I'm pulling on a rope and we're doing tug of war, and I see my libertarian friends on the other side and they're like with the communists and Islamists pulling in, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the only problem is I don't know who winds up being on our side. I guess like Bibi Netanyahu, we look up and we're like, oh, okay, we're here with the Israeli Prime Minister.
Lindsey Graham,
Yes.
Marco Rubio, but also, hey, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy.
No, it's definitely a resetting, and I think the reset is people who will be useful, people who are able to move forward, to operate as colleagues, and people who want to essentially make themselves a bench warmer. They enjoy being on the sidelines. They feel comfortable over there because it's low pressure.
That's why that's why they don't want Trump to win, because when Trump wins, then they don't get all the attention and credit and get to write, all of these press releases and things about how they're the ones who are saving America because they wrote a press release. But besides all the weird perverse incentives that we have in the media and on the right to sort of root against our guy in a way, because winning is something we're not familiar with, but we need to get used to and start, enjoying and embracing winning and getting tired of winning. But I really just enjoy the thing that makes me, I guess, I don't know, we're calling it retard maxing, Tom, but I mean, to be kind of like Trump retard max a little bit and or they call us plan trusters. But
it's been a decade. When has plan trusting failed us? I confess there were a couple times. I remember in like February of 2017, Trump struck the Syrian airfield, and I was like, "Oh man, is this it? Is this the end of the Trump project that I had then been working on in the media for 2 years since 2015?" And Austin, here we are, almost a decade later, and I think it's safe to say plan trusters are rewarded.
Yeah, the plant trusters have been rewarded. And that's why I like with this whole Iran thing, I'm just like, I'm reporting on it. I'm looking at all angles of it. I'm definitely, deeply concerned for the safety of our American military service members who are in danger right now. So when you see things like this dramatic rescue, it's just such a relief because, nobody wants to see Americans getting killed. But on the other side of things, it does seem as if the Trump administration is declared and dedicated to removing this cancer from the face of the earth, which this Iranian regime since 1979 has killed American military service members, used terror proxies around the world to attack the West, has declared that they want nothing but death and destruction for us and our families. How could we allow these people to have a nuclear weapon when you see how they behave? I guess the fundamental problem is I don't see these people as sort of on parity with the rest of civilization. I see American and Western civilization as superior, and therefore I won't jump into bed with the third worldists, Tom, or what I call the turd worldists.
Well, I think that's right. And there's this kind of competing ideology from Russia and China and Iran where America is not actually that great. America sucks now. And those countries, they see what we need to have is a multipolar world where Iran is just as cool as America in many ways. And Russia is just as cool as America. And China is just as cool as America. And it's a fantasy that these Easterners have been pursuing the past 5 years or so. Under Biden, to their credit, it seemed real. It seemed like our government was incompetent. Perhaps America's greatest days were behind it, and we needed to accept the facts. But now here we are. That rescue operation that you were talking about over the weekend, no other country could do that. China could not pull that off. Russia could not pull that off. And Iran, this massive country, it's full of mountains, we've been repeatedly told. It's going to be really, really difficult if we ever get into an armed conflict with Iran. Well, apparently, we can have one of our guys go down in the middle of the country. He hides in a cave for 3 days while we send our special forces, do untold amounts of damage in a brief period of time, and rescue him. No, this is a great day for America. This is a bad day if you're one of these Eurasian nationalists who think that their country will be just as big and powerful as the United States. No, I don't think that will happen, at least not anytime soon. Not when we have Trump, Vance, Rubio coming down the pipeline.
Tom, I agree with you, and that's why a lot of my old friends really hate me right now. I've lost a lot of friends. Very, very angry DM. If you could see my DMs, Tom, angry. They're angry. Now, Andy Kessler wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. He made the argument that defeatism is not just an attitude, it is an organized, funded, coordinated political strategy deployed by people who benefit from American despair. AOC, Bernie Sanders, the collaborationist left, they want us to lose and look terrible because it helps them, because all they care about is the midterms, not the lives of American soldiers. But we do see this phenomenon on the right where you have people who claim to be right-wingers, people who are Groyper adjacent, or even some of my old friends in the libertarian movement that seem to really be egging on American loss, American decline, American destruction. What profit them to do such a thing? We understand why the left hates us and wants to destroy the West, but why do so many on the right seem to be cheering for American decline?
Well, as I said, I think these people enjoy being a bench warmer. They don't want the responsibility that comes with being in the driver's seat. So now that they have somebody in the driver's seat that is essentially their ally, they have to change this fact. And I think most of them have frankly been successful. The people that are criticizing Trump from the right the most, the Fuenteses, have obviously been enemies of the administration for most of the first and second administration, but at least since that dinner that they had in 2023-24. But the libertarians, Thomas Massey, is now essentially an enemy of the administration. He has to, if he wants to show up, I guess he can caucus with Bernie Sanders and the other independents. I don't think that works. And this is with the pattern that's playing out in the media, where you have certain podcasts, et cetera, that are essentially taking themselves out of the left-right conversation, and they're just becoming, I guess, entertainment podcasts. I'm thinking of the Candace Owens of the world. And so essentially what you're seeing is they're no longer part of our movement. They're no longer in the MAGA big tent. We're no longer rowing in the same direction because they've decided that being a bench warmer and criticizing and making money through advertising, et cetera, I guess, is more important than saving the country and having a wonderful world.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes told his Groyper followers to vote Democrat in the midterms to shut down the Trump administration over the Iran war. He claimed Iran was, quote, fighting for America more than America is fighting for itself. And then this weekend, the U.S. military pulled the guy out of the mountain crevice. So I've lost the Tom Woods follow. Now, Tom Woods and I have followed each other for years, Tom. And
what's happened to Tom Woods? I don't get it. I met him once. There was like a Kansas libertarian event a decade ago, and I met him, and he seemed so normal and so nice. And is it just like, did a Jewish accountant get him audited one year? I don't get it.
It was those damn shifty Jewish accountants. I don't know what it is, but there is a weird, there is like an Israel and Jew derangement syndrome that exists on the right. And if there is, he got bit by it in a way, because it's like, no Jews, no news, in a sense. I don't know. You know, I just feel as if there is like if Trump derangement syndrome is a thing, then there is such a thing as an Israel derangement syndrome. And it does seem as if our libertarian movement, the Ron Paulers, like at least many of the people who have headed that way, they've gone in this weird pro-third world, anti-war. So you're so anti-war that you're pro Iran and pro Russia and pro China. And it's strange because it's like Tom Woods has more in common with Nick Fuentes than he does with me. I think that's weird. It's strange to me.
That is a very odd development. And you have to wonder, how is any of this really libertarian? I guess they're not so much libertarian. They're voluntarists. They're anarcho-capitalists who believe that the state should not ever use force. Really, what it sounds like to me is they've become pacifists, where there is no ever good reason to use military force, and we should essentially start disbanding the state. I mean, a lot of this, I think, libertarians have been accused for many years of living in La La Land, and I think that may be what this is. They're living in a fantasy in which there are no bad guys in the world, and if we could just put down our guns and get along, Austin, maybe we could be partying in Iran by this summer.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that. when Javier Milei got elected, that the Jew thing was such an important part of this, Tom, because here is an anarcho-capitalist, self-described anarcho-capitalist economist who becomes president of the 8th largest country in the world by landmass, starts shutting down government agencies left and right. You know, afuera, the famous Javier Milei. Let's give it out to our Javier Milei stands this morning. We do have some people from Argentina who listen to the show, but it was once he even though he shut down all those government agencies, is doing everything they want as a libertarian. They still call him a shifty Jew. They still are mad at him, and they say that he's doing Israel's bidding because he's pro-America. And here's the thing: he's pro-Israel.
Now shrinking the size of the state is Jewish. I am pro-Jew if that's the case.
So. Well, I mean, hey, many of the prominent people who founded libertarianism were Jews. But right. I mean, that's how you knew that it was no longer just like a principled defense of anarcho-capitalism, because they're mad at Javier Milei for not doing some obscure thing, even though he's done all these other wonderful libertarian things. And then they accuse him of, being part of the Chabad Jewish sect and being friends with Netanyahu. And he is, because Milei, here's the thing.
He's the world leader. I think they should be happy about that, the libertarians. And I bet the Argentinians are smarter than the libertarians. I bet they are. That their country, that has not necessarily always been one of the big players of the world, has the attention of Israel, where all of the attention in the world is directed at all times for the past 70 years.
Yeah, it's just fascinating because we get to watch the experiment of libertarian principles in the real world. Because, Tom, you and I, we come from the same movement. And for years, what did people always say? When have libertarian ideas ever been tried? Of course. And now we get to watch it happen. And it's a beautiful thing. But I want Javier Milei here in my country. So what are we going to do, Tom, to overcome the defeatists? And in the post-Trump right, what's the future going to be like? What are we going to build, Tom? People like yourself and myself who are like us, we haven't gone into third worldism, right? But maybe we disagree with the Trump movement, maybe on some economic issues here or there. What does the post-Trump MAGA nationalist movement look like in your mind, Tom?
That's a very interesting question, because obviously the trap that these people, the Jew haters, the Panicans, all of them in their alliance have created is that when you criticize Trump, they stop listening now. And that's a very dangerous place to be politically. Fortunately, they seem to have a lot of level heads in the administration. But once President Trump is no longer in the picture, one has to wonder if this is going to continue, or if these radical online voices are going to be able to have sway over a Rubio administration or a Vance administration, or perhaps their staffers, their donors, etc. I think what is going to happen in the meantime is these people are going to be proven to be insane by the news events, by reality. They're going to continue to disappoint their audience by making predictions that don't come true, by saying things that turn out to be false, etc. And I think the best thing that people like our audience can do is simply start ignoring them. I'll give you an example. I did a little inadvertent social media detox on Saturday. It was Easter. I was getting ready for Easter. It took a lot of preparations. And as a result, I did not know I had some news radio on in the background. I had people that were calling me on the phone to chat, but I had no idea, Austin, that President Trump was supposed to be dying in Walter Reed Military Hospital. That was a media fixation that existed solely in these doomer networks and never made it into reality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Krasensteins. I heard a conspiracy theory that the Trump administration actually leaked that they were dead, that Trump may have been dead, to the Krasensteins, and used the left as a smokescreen so that the Iranians would all be even more confused and maybe even celebrating that Trump was dead while they were actually going in and grabbing this pilot. The thing that makes me, the reason why I'm retard maxing on this, Tom, is because for the first time in my life since I was a child, and I'm a bit older than you, so I remember Ronald Reagan as a child. This is the first time since Ronald Reagan, and maybe like a bit during the Clinton years when he got shellacked by Newt Gingrich, but the first time that I've really seen competence from the White House. Not fecklessness, not a president doddering around, not a black president who's destroying our healthcare system, right? Not George W. Bush like creating two wars where maybe one was necessary, but I see a president who actually loves this country and gets the job done. Is he perfect? No. Is he a great president? Hell yes, he's a great president. I'm tired of pretending like he's not. So are you with me, Tom? Are we retard maxing?
100%.
We're retard maxing. We're doing it.
I've been describing myself as a Trump sycophant, Austin. So I've been way ahead of you on this. There is nothing the guy can do that is wrong. If he does something, I guess I'll come back and I'll catch up and I won't be a Trump sycophant anymore. But after a decade of more than that, 12 years of following President Trump's political life, you have to actually be a retard to not just implicitly trust him. You trust but verify with President Trump. You do not panic out or doom her out like we've seen from so many of our former friends.
Exactly. And whatever you do, just avoid the Jewish conspiracy people. It never ends well. It always ends with a homosexual flame out and your wife leaving you and your kids.
Sometimes you go to CPAC with two young male escorts. And I'm not saying he paid. I'm just saying that they were there.
Hell no, he doesn't have to pay for it. Hey Tom, you're a great guy, and man, my audience loves you. We just hired a new guy last week, and he was watching your interview. He was like, "Damn, Tom Pappert is great." So where can people read the written equivalent of what you have, all the wonderful pearls that you have dropped on us right now? The pearls before, I assure you, not swine. Thank you for sharing them with us.
No, I do not think that of your audience at all. I like your audience. Your audience actually found me last time, and I only plugged for like half a second. You can follow me on X at @RealTomPappert, and you can read my work. In fact, I've got a call from the editor right now, so I'm glad to hop off. You can read what I write for news reporting at TennesseeStar.com. And Austin, it's always a pleasure to come on. I look forward to being on again soon.
Tom, we appreciate your input, man. We'll definitely have you back. Let's talk soon, all right?
Will do. Looking forward to it, Austin.
That's Tom Pappert. He is a great follow. Make sure you follow him over on X, and a great guest. Jennifer Halboyne over the chat says, you wouldn't say these things to your friend Judge Knapp when he's on your show. What do you mean, Jennifer? What things? And I'm pretty sure the judge and I argue plenty about foreign policy. Oh, boo, Austin. Judge and I disagree about foreign policy stuff all the time. You guys have unlocked the bonus content. That means that you now get to play the Great Grift Off. If you want to play to win, you've got to play to win. Head to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. Crowdparty.app. Type in the code you see on your screen, 51409. We've got room for up to 50 players, and everybody who plays has a chance to win. Head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. We're giving away gift cards to the Grift Shop, forlibertyshop.com. If you want to win, all you got to do is play. Log in now. Head on over to crowdparty.app. We're going to play a live mini game right now, and everybody who's here can play. We're going to do a little spring fever. Head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app, and type in the code 51409. No live police action this time, Drew. That made the show. That just made the show so awesome Friday night. Head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app, 51409. Crowdparty.app. I've got room for up to 50 players. There's 96 people watching us live over on Rumble. Some odds others on other platforms like X. You can be a winner today. First prize gets a nice gift certificate to the Grift Shop. So why don't you come on over and play a little Spring Fever? In just a moment, I'm going to hit the 30-second countdown. The 30-second countdown is your 30-second countdown. Head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. Everyone is eligible to play, totally free. And the first place prize winner gets a gift card. We're going to do the countdown now. You've got 30 seconds to join crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app for the Great Grift Off. Head on over to crowdparty.app. Type in that code as soon as you can, 51409, and join me live for the Great Grift Off. Liberty Loot Live. 10 seconds left. 10 seconds left to join the game. Let's go. What date does spring officially begin in the Northern Hemisphere? May 21st, April 1st, March 1st, or March 20th? Riddle me this. Leaderboard Olive Skin Jesus. Sports biggest annual tournament, March Madness. Which sport? St. Selma, number 1. Pineapple Colt. Number 2. What do many animals do in spring as the weather warms? Shed fur, stock up on food, migrate south, hibernate. Shed fur. Yes, we know that one in our house. Ooh, St. Selma and Siggy's mom. Round 4 of 6. This is a short one today. You just received a gift. Will you accept it? Yes or no? Everybody decided already. If you accepted the gift, you got 50 points. St. Selma and Siggy's mom and Pineapple Colton in the first, second, and third. What spring holiday celebrates Irish culture and is famous for wearing green? St. Patrick's Day. Who said May Day? I read that wrong? Yeah, you think? Here we go, last round. Do. Which phrase is commonly used to describe brief rainstorms? April showers, yes. Who won? St. Selma, congratulations. Send us a text. Listen, guys, everybody who played today is eligible to get a prize. So text us 573-319-1586. St. Selma, identify yourself as St. Selma. We'll give you the $20 gift card. Everybody else is going to get a $5 gift card to the gift shop. So if you want your $5 gift card, guys, you can use your $5 gift card on top of your 20% discount. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. If you want to do a little shopping this morning, you'll exit through the gift shop. 573-319-1586. Today was a freaking amazing show, guys. Freaking amazing. When you get the $20 gift card, you can use it on things like the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo. So if you wanted this beautiful polo, you could get $20 off it if you were St. Selma and you won today. But if you want to get $5 off of it, just hit us up. Send us a text, 573-319-1586. If you played the game, if you participated, we'll send you a $5 gift card. Head on over there to the gift shop on the way out. BH North's got the Boston Tea Party mug. Thanks so much for all you do for us, for the For Liberty Network, guys. What a great start to the week. I hope you all have a wonderful day. You're in a good mood. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network.
In the shadow of Boston's bustling docks and Puritan meeting houses on September 27, 1722, a boy was born who would become the most dangerous man in British America. Samuel Adams, second cousin to the more famous John, was raised in a strict Puritan household where liberty was preached from the pulpit and rebellion brewed in the streets. His father, a prosperous maltster and political firebrand, taught him early that no king had the right to tax a free man without consent. Young Sam absorbed every word. He graduated from Harvard in 1740, but unlike most sons of merchants, Sam showed little interest in making money. He preferred politics, philosophy, and the raw power of the printed word. When his father's business collapsed under British tax schemes, Sam took the lesson to heart. Tyranny always began with the purse. He became a tax collector himself, deliberately terrible at the job, so he could expose the system's corruption from inside. By the 1760s, Boston was a powder keg. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the presence of redcoats on every corner, Sam saw it all as a deliberate plot to enslave free Englishmen. He didn't just protest, he organized. Quietly, relentlessly, he built the most effective political machine in the colonies, the Sons of Liberty. While others wrote elegant essays, Sam worked in the taverns, the shipyards, the churches, and the streets. He recruited mechanics, sailors, apprentices, and merchants. He turned anger into action. On the cold winter night of March 5, 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd on King Street. 5 colonists lay dead in the snow, the Boston Massacre. Sam Adams seized the moment. He demanded the soldiers be tried for murder. He flooded the newspapers with fiery accounts. He organized massive funerals that became public rallies. The British troops were withdrawn from the city, a moral victory that tasted like blood in Sam's mouth. 3 years later, the British tried again with the Tea Act. On the evening of December 16, 1773, Sam stood in the Old South Meeting House as thousands packed the hall. When the final plea to the governor was rejected, he rose and gave the signal with one calm sentence: "This meeting can do nothing more to save the country." That was the code. Within minutes, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dozens of men, including Paul Revere, swarmed the 3 tea ships in Boston Harbor. That night, 342 chests of East India Company tea worth nearly $1 million in today's money splashed into the salty water. Samuel Adams had lit the fuse of revolution. The British struck back hard. They closed Boston Harbor, revoked the Massachusetts Charter, and sent more troops. Sam responded by creating the Committees of Correspondence, a secret network that linked every colony like a hidden web. He wrote letter after letter, pamphlet after pamphlet, under pseudonyms that kept British spies guessing. He organized the First Continental Congress in 1774 and pushed the most radical demands. By April 1775, the British governor, General Thomas Gage, had had enough. He planned to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock in Lexington and seize military stores in Concord. On the night of April 18th, Paul Revere and others rode out with Sam's own warning: "The regulars are coming out." Adams and Hancock escaped just in time. The next morning, shots rang out on Lexington Green. The war had begun, and Samuel Adams had helped start it. In Philadelphia, at the Second Continental Congress, Sam sat among the delegates wearing the same plain brown coat and worn shoes he always wore. While others hesitated, he pushed relentlessly for independence. When John Dickinson argued for reconciliation, Sam whispered to his cousin John, "I am for independence, now." On July 4, 1776, he proudly signed the Declaration of Independence, his signature bold and defiant. After independence, Sam served in Congress, helped draft the Articles of Confederation, and returned to Massachusetts as a leader of the state Senate. He fought against the proposed new Constitution in 1787, fearing it gave too much power to a central government. Only after a Bill of Rights was promised did he finally support ratification. He lived to see his dream fulfilled. In his later years, crippled by tremors and nearly blind, the old revolutionary still attended town meetings, still spoke for liberty, still wore the simple clothes of the people. He died on October 2, 1803, at the age of 81, buried in Boston's Granary Burying Ground near the victims of the massacre he had immortalized. Samuel Adams was never a soldier on the battlefield. He never fired a musket at redcoats. Yet few men did more to bring about the American Revolution. He was the master agitator, the tireless organizer, the man who turned scattered anger into a united flame. While Washington fought with steel and Franklin charmed with wit, Sam Adams fought with ideas, committees, newspapers, and pure, unrelenting will. He was the firebrand who lit the torch that became a nation. The man who proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in a revolution is not a sword, but a stubborn Boston brewer's son who simply